So I'm from Microsoft, MJ is from Red Hat. I'm the Cloud Native team lead for EMEA, so that's basically everything to do with containers at Microsoft across the region. And MJ, do you want to introduce yourself?
MJ, Senior Software Engineer at Red Hat.
He didn't even pronounce his name. That's not fair. All right.
So you may have heard that we announced back in Red Hat Summit that we're going to be doing managed OpenShift. We call it OpenShift on Azure. Brendan Burns got up, showed how easy it was to be able to do a deployment of OpenShift on Azure. Since then, we've kind of worked together, both MJ and his team and the engineering team within Microsoft, to basically bring the platform onto Azure itself. A couple of the features in terms of what we're looking to be able to actually provide is self-service deployment. So we have an AZ command line, AZ OpenShift create. That will spin up your OpenShift cluster for you, do all the integrations with the Azure services, the infrastructure, to be able to scale the cluster up and down as far as you want to be able to do that. Obviously, we're Microsoft, so identity management is key for us, integration with Active Directory as well, and integration into things like ExpressRoute, which is the private connection into the Azure data centers, as well as a VNet integration, which is a totally private OpenShift implementation with no internet endpoints, as well as then further integration into OpenShift, Open Service Broker for Azure as well, to be able to go into things like MySQL, PostgreSQL, Cosmos, all of the backend services that you would want to be able to use with OpenShift. So in terms of what we're actually providing with this offering, we're providing the monitoring of the application, and this is the responsibility of both Red Hat and Microsoft to be able to provide this for you as a customer. Monitoring the health of the cluster, making sure the cluster is up and running and fixing it if it breaks. Network configuration, so you don't have to mess around with the IP address allocation. You can do that if you want to, or we can take care of that for you as well. Software and security updates, patching, those types of things, as well as the platform support and infrastructure management. This is a pure managed service that we're offering to you. So Red Hat engineers will look after your service for you. The Azure engineers will look after the platform for you as well, basically allowing you to get on with the good stuff, which is actually deploying applications onto OpenShift. So in terms of what you are responsible for from a customer perspective, it's the standard stuff that you would assume. Quota management, user management, application lifecycle, those types of things. We don't take care of that stuff for you. It's not totally managed in terms of you give us a deployment manifest and we do everything for you. That's still your responsibility. Now, the reason why I got MJ up on stage is that, how do I put this? Microsoft historically hasn't been great at open source. Former CEO saying open source is a cancer. It doesn't sit very well. And last year at Microsoft, I looked after the open source business in the UK. So I've kind of done this pitch lots and lots of times, but I'm not going to bore you with the finer details. But when you talk about Microsoft and Red Hat working, collaborating really, really closely, usually what I would explain would that we'd have integrated support teams who would basically, you submit a support ticket into Azure, it would be picked up by the engineering team in Red Hat, and we'd work together to be able to resolve this. What we're doing with managed OpenShift is totally different. We have co-engineering teams who are working together to develop this solution to make sure that operationally this is sound for you. So I got MJ up on stage because I wanted to get his opinion in terms of how do our companies actually work together? So the first thing I do want to ask you is, how's it working with Microsoft?
So it's a funny question, like very short story. I have a brother, he's .NET developer, and our life story is I've been mocking him, trying to drag to open source all my life. And now he's mocking me. But honestly, I don't feel bad. And people who know me, and quite a few in this room, I'm kind of skeptical guy. I see that Microsoft is changing and we're moving like to that direction. And I think 5 years ago, this kind of collaboration would not be possible. That's my personal opinion. But now it's changing. Like we're working together, delivering product code. And from all this, basically our customers wins because they have a seamless experience how we deliver the product.
The other thing, in terms of how the teams are actually working together, 95% of what you're actually working on is on GitHub, is a public repo for you to be able to work on. You can go and see what progress we're making in terms of this as well. When I say 95%, there's a 5% component which we call the resource provider, which is heavily coupled into the Azure infrastructure. I talked to the product manager last night, and there may be some movement on that. Let's just leave it like that. So, it's interesting. Obviously, we acquired GitHub. That's a totally separate conversation altogether. But this is all being developed in the open as well. And what we want is for people in the community to be able to learn from what we are doing together to be able to run OpenShift at scale globally. One of the other things I think that we kind of really want to talk about is that it's easy to be able to develop the code together, right? It's open source, pull requests, all of that good stuff which goes on, and it's relatively easy to be able to go through that process. What we're trying to achieve as companies together actually is some of the difficult, the softer things which are around that. So, how do you run an OpenShift platform at the scale that we're talking about? We're talking about basically 54 regions globally. That's basically the sales pitch over from a Microsoft perspective. It's difficult to be able to run a single platform and to be able to scale that for customers. How do we handle a Red Hat employee being able to log into a customer subscription to be able to diagnose those issues? You've got a Microsoft badge now. Ooh. You've got a Microsoft SOAR device, which is a secure device to be able to log into the Azure backend as well. How do we fix those operational things to be able to actually make all of this work? And the other things like identifiable information in log files, how do we actually manage all that stuff? We want to fix this as an organization. And those are the things that I think we'll actually be able to give back to the community to be able to say, look, this is how you do it. This is how you fix those difficult problems. So yeah, we are going to learn as both companies try and figure out how this works at scale. And I think we will be back next year in terms of once we've gone into GA, when people are using it, what we've learned from that, to be able to give some of those learnings back. So thank you very much.
All right. Well done.